This video is going to be sort of a wake up call to any people who think that life, if lived properly, is going to be an easy path. It's not. Today, perhaps, has been the most painful day I've ever had, psychologically, physiologically, perhaps. I've just called and called and called all day. It wasn't that long of a period of time. It was maybe 10:30 to 5 o'clock, including a quick break when I thought I was going to have a call, but then the person didn't show up. It was awful. It was terrible. It was beyond your comprehension, probably, if you haven't cold called before. It was terrible. I just kept forcing myself to do it again and again. And by the time I had made 5 to 10 calls, I was already in agony because it's a Thursday, right? And I've been calling all week. It's really like if you're gonna start doing this, you need to be serious about it. There's nothing glorious about this kind of endeavor whatsoever. Like, there's nothing glorious about it at first. You're not going to get any people believing in you. You're not going to get any feedback after the first while, and there's some days where you're just going to keep working and working and pushing a boulder up the hill. You're going to snap every bone in your leg, and you're not going to get nobody's going to see you, and no one's going to care. It's just, you're just going to have to drag it back up the hill with your arms if you need to. Like, nobody is coming to save you. You have to do it yourself. And I haven't even made it yet, and I'm just there telling you from the trenches, another person yelling over the bullet storm. You need to know that this is not going to entail some kind of fun experience whatsoever. It doesn't matter how good you get. It doesn't matter how well you can sell. It probably doesn't even matter how well you can deliver the service. Maybe even making the client happy won't make you won't leave your pain, but maybe it will. But like, you know what I mean. When you're doing the process, it doesn't matter how good you get. There's always still just another level of pain to go down into. And I'm not saying this to virtue signal or anything, because it's not particularly virtuous. I'm just putting myself through absolute agony to become an even better salesman and a better person for, just better salesman, really. No, nothing else. That's all I'm intending to get better at. And in these last 3 months, these last 3 months of pure torture, up to this point, this absolute climax of today, I've gotten much better at talking and articulating myself. I don't think I'm ever going to have a problem with confidence again. I don't think, even when I start getting interested in the other gender, whenever that happens, I'm ever going to have a problem with getting rejected by them 1,000 times, just because I've gotten rejected probably hundreds of times by them, even when I wasn't pursuing them romantically. So it's a case where I've built up so much character from this absolute hellfire that it's just not going to ever phase me again. And this progress has been condensed into a period of 3 months, and it looks like I look kind of deranged now just saying this. Like, my hair is it looks sweaty. It's not really, though, seriously. It's just kind of shiny. I took a shower a couple of days ago. Don't repeat that. I took a shower a couple of days ago, as if that's a good thing. But it's not some kind of, it's just not a joyride whatsoever. I stopped work 12 hours after I started work yesterday. This is my third 12-hour work day, technically, and I'm just not getting to sleep early enough to make up for it. I'm not getting to sleep early enough to get up when I got up during the day. I'm having a sleep deficit here. I didn't sleep the full 8 hours last night. You can probably see there's slight bags in my eyes, which is okay. Maybe that's actually contributed to the absolute torture I went through today. Just again and again, just calling people up. I don't even know why it was so unbelievably painful. Usually it's pretty painful, but it's not. Like, I would rather jump out a window just to end the consciousness, because of how awful it is in the moment. Like, there's just there is a level of pain that any of us could experience that we would just choose instant death over it. And when it gets to the psychological level, it's it's just interesting. Of course, you don't really feel like living in the moment, but of course, you you keep going anyway because you know it's going to be worth it in the end. Whatever's going to come after it is going to be worth it in the end. I was supposed to have one meeting today, and I ended up doing one meeting, but it wasn't with the person I originally scheduled with. It was with someone I literally just called, and I asked, "Would you usually be free in the mornings or the afternoons?" And then, oh gosh, even saying that sentence again is just making me feel sick. And he said, "I'm free right now. Actually, let's do the call right now." And I was like, "Okay, great," but then I was feeling like I was in already agony by then, so you can only imagine how after that call I felt. So the process got started anyway. I tried to send an email to him. I got the wrong email because my laptop has typing problems, and it double types some characters and it doesn't type other characters sometimes. So it wouldn't type the T character, but then sometimes it would just double type the T character, and the same with the back character. So then when you're trying to correct your mistake, it'd probably take out all the T characters. So then you have to struggle with typing the T character again. So it did this with C, the letter C, and so I had to correct that and send the email over again. And I was getting worried because I was losing a potential prospect here who would have been getting impatient. And then I had trouble with signing into Google in that exact call as well. They decided then that it was a good idea to send me this notification where I had to update my password once more, and I chose to update it as the same password as before, and of course they didn't allow that. So after spending like 2 minutes typing it twice, I ended up spending another 2 minutes typing it twice again, and my stress was just getting higher and higher with him on the phone patiently waiting for me to start the Zoom call and invite him. And I finally did get the Zoom call open. I finally did get the right email address, finally did invite him. We got onto a call, and I couldn't hear him on Zoom because he was having noise problems, and he couldn't hear me either. So I had to call him again. I just left the audio on, and I kept the Zoom video on as well, so he could see my workflows. But it was just a bloody nightmare just to even get to the point of where I began the bloody sales call. Just getting to that point, it was a heinous bloody experience. I would not recommend. If you're going for enjoyment, if you're going for growth, then probably would recommend, because the stress will build you into someone else who can achieve probably more than what you're intending to achieve. But it was awful. Oh my gosh, it was awful. And then after that, so I went through the call anyway, and then he started explaining a ton of extremely complex, cognitively demanding things about his business, and how he was kind of objecting to me and my services, because, well, not like to me, like he got on pretty well with me, and I got on pretty well with him. I think he's a down-to-earth guy. It's just that he had a lot of doubts regarding how my service would work for him, and what, like, the amount of processes that would just complicate the situation even more. How he'd have to come in, give them a quote individually, and then they'd have to contact him, and how the margins I'm demanding for my service on the sales I create for him would cut in then to his margins, because he already only gets like 10% margins on his projects, and when I'm taking 10%, then he's going to get nothing, so there's no point, right? It was just stuff like that I was struggling to kind of deal with in terms of objections. But I dealt with them anyway. Basically said, we're going to make sure that whoever buys off you is completely nourished, and you're not going to waste time with prospects who aren't going to convert because of our automated system. And I just answered his other objections as well. I can't remember them, but yeah, I'm pretty good at, well, if I say I'm good at objection handling, then I'm not going to try, which means I'm going to start to suck at it. So I'm not going to say I'm good at objection handling. I'll maybe say I'm not incompetent at objection handling, because I've been able to handle every objection so far. And even if there isn't an objection I can logically handle, I'll take it to the emotional side instead, and I'll. It's just surprised me how you can actually persuade someone without exact reasoning, where you can just persuade someone by their emotions. It's. I don't want to sound like a manipulator, but it's kind of cool how you can kind of do that. The last thing I want to do is manipulate people in a way that's not conducive to their own success. This has to be a win-win victory, and we should be able to achieve that. So afterwards, after that meeting, we scheduled another call on Tuesday, just to actually organize another one, because he wasn't completely convinced, but he also didn't say no, because I did make somewhat of an argument for my services, and I've built out a workflow for him now. But after that, I started making more calls, and it was just brutal, just going through call and call again, just getting rejected. It's not bad, not in each individual call got bad, but each individual, what would you call it? Sorry, my mind has gone fuzzy again. Each individual call isn't bad, but the cumulative effect of them over time. And when someone is just kind of cold to you on the phone, and then you kind of it doesn't bother me anymore, and I don't get offended by it. I don't get remotely offended by it, and it doesn't scare me either. It doesn't annoy me when someone's just kind of an ass on the phone, but it exhausts me, because I have to spend cognitive energy kind of analyzing. Your brain automatically analyzes threats, so when someone is being dramatic on the phone, your brain just immediately goes, what's going on, and you kind of have to tamper that down, which ends up taking more energy. So there's the energy of dealing with the prospect, there's the energy of emotionally managing the prospect, there's the energy of logically reasoning with the prospect, there's also the energy output of articulating yourself properly on the phone, maintaining your reputation, analysing the threats with your brain, and then tampering down your brain so that you don't start panicking. That all takes cognitive energy, and it is the most, after 4 days of this, it is just the most draining thing. And I spent until about 2:30 I was doing cold calling, but then I stopped at 2:30 because I had a sales call in half an hour, and in these relatively beginning stages of sales calls, I usually give myself an hour to practice beforehand, so I can sound as enthusiastic and as tuned in as possible. So I did that, and I started reading the framework on the page to myself, and just talking about it to an invisible prospect in front of me, and my words were just getting slurred. I was in so much pain by then. The psychological pain was actually hindering my ability to speak. It was ridiculous. I was just so exhausted. Every muscle in my body just wanted to collapse, because it was just so. I was just so mentally drained by then, and then I moved my leg really quickly to get it into a comfortable place, and then the sore part of my foot, the part that got practically cut open at the heel, it hits right against the front part of the chair, and then I spend the next couple of minutes in absolute agonizing physical pain as well as psychological pain. And at this point, I just feel like my brain, I'm surprised my brain just isn't exploding, just because of the amount of effort this is taking to just not, jump out the window. It was just so, it was awful. It was bloody terrible. Did not enjoy it. But the physical pain went away anyway, and I kept calling, and psychological pain stayed and probably increased a bit, to be honest. It's going up slightly more and more throughout the day until finally 5 o'clock came and I was just able to bloody stop calling, and I had dinner then, and I had sandwiches as well, and the pain, and I had to call some more people because I couldn't get them during the day, and I just call a lot of people, and I'm having a good conversation with the prospect, and then they're just like, okay, so you want to call me back in a few days, and maybe then we can talk about moving on further. And then I'm just thinking like, yeah, okay, but how about we go for a meeting, I say, and then they say, yeah, but we probably shouldn't schedule it now, and then I'm like, yeah, probably not, because things come up during the week. So I schedule a lot of ghost meetings, so not actual meetings, but meetings. The good thing about this is I only have one more day of this nightmare left, and then it's going to be a bank holiday weekend, so I'm not going to have to call people up until Tuesday. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at. It's about 9:54 now. I should have been finished work a minute ago because I started about 12 hours and 1 minute ago. That means that, yeah, I should be getting off to sleep now. I would like to recount something though. I'm still in pain. Like, it's been about nearly 5 hours since I've pretty much finished calling, and I'm still in a huge amount of pain psychologically. It's not really dwindling down that quickly. Like, I was in a bit less at 6 o'clock, a bit less at 7, a bit less at 8, a bit less at 9, now nearly 10. Still a bit less again, but it's still, I'd say, about 70%, 80%. And the thing is, it's good and all enduring that for, let's say, 8 hours, but then when that seeps into the night, you don't have time to fully recover by the next morning, and so it passes over. You already have 30% of the pain build up, which means that, let's say on Monday, you're in like a tiny bit of healthy pain by the end of the day, and then Tuesday comes along and you're in more pain. It's kind of hurting. You don't really like cold calling at this point. It just pretty much sucks, and so you keep going anyway. Then you finish Tuesday. Wednesday comes along and you're not having fun at all by Wednesday. It's kind of awful. Let's be honest. You're not enjoying the process one bit. You keep going on anyway. You have to sound like you don't want to kill yourself on the phone, because otherwise people won't trust you. So you have to kind of keep this jovial tone, which I do. Like, hi, it's Michael Keaveney. Am I speaking to the owner of this place? That's what I say, and I may sound enthusiastic and interested, but I'm just completely hollow. I am dead. I feel like I've been stabbed 100 times. But by the time it gets to Thursday, because the psychological pain doesn't go away, and now Friday, I don't know how I'm going to survive Friday. I just don't know. When I started, it was just a case of where I would do 10 Monday, 10 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and by the time it was Friday, I would just be all anxious and all over the place, fumbling my words, and it was just real anxiety then. I don't have much of an emotional problem anymore because I just stunt my emotions. I just kind of bury them down. Now it's causing absolute purgatory for me. So yeah, if you want to endeavour in business, consider these parts of it as well. Not just someone saying, yeah, it gets a bit hard at times, but, at the end of the day, it's really worth it because, you get your Lamborghini and your Bugatti. Can't even generate actual laughter just because my brain has just been through so much distress today. Anyway, again, if you have anything to say on this, anything to comment on the topic, maybe you could call me a self-pitying person if you want. I think I'm just telling the truth though. I don't think I'm self-pitying. A few months ago I was self-pitying, but not now. Now I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's how it is. It is how it is. It's still amazing though how no one's in the house. That's the part I enjoy best. Suffer a lot, as long as I don't have that suffering. Anyway, appreciate you watching this. See you later.